Hello, my name is Pooja, and I welcome you back to a new episode of Around the World, a program which focuses on enhancing your understanding of global affairs and geopolitics. Although there are many examples of enmity between two countries of the world, but the story of Israel and Palestine's enmity is the most interesting amongst them. Israel and Palestine are the two countries whose dispute has been going on since a really long period of time. Agreements have been done many times between the two countries to maintain peace and bridge the gap of differences, but it did not yield anything specific or special. After a few days of respite, airstrikes and disturbing violent images reappear. In the Israeli-occupied West Bank, these military raids have been common during the last year. Last week, something similar happened again in Jenin of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. There, the Israeli army carried out such a deadly raid, which was probably the most dangerous raid in the last decade. It was so dreadful that experts believe that it may even trigger a third Palestinian revolt. This action of Israel was strongly criticized by the countries of the Islamic world. Seeing the seriousness of the situation, America also gave its reaction. It called an emergency meeting with the Israeli representative. On the other hand, after the latest violence, the Palestinian Authority, which runs the administration in the Palestinian territories, also talked about ending its security cooperation with Israel. In such a situation, few major questions emerge. First of all, what is the whole issue of Israel-Palestine tension? Secondly, what is the role of the global powers and how the regional powers of the Middle East in this tension fare? How are the countries of the Islamic world related to this tension? Thirdly, what is India's stand on this matter? We will look into all of these questions one by one, but first of all, let us have a quick look at both the recent Israel-Palestine tensions and its background. By the way, the background of the recent tension was being prepared by many already happening incidents. The wrongful entry of an Israeli minister into Al-Aqsa is an example of this. Then came the raids in Jenin of the Israeli-occupied West Bank, claiming the lives of innocent people in the refugee camp. However, regarding this raid, the Israeli army says that some suspected terrorists had set up their bases there. That's why the Israeli special forces attacked the house of suspected terrorists. However, this was followed by a gunfight for several hours, which saw widespread damage. The scale of the damage was such that it was reminiscent of the scene of the Second Palestinian Uprising in 2002. Jenin was then, as is now, the center of Palestinian armed group fighting the Israeli occupation. However, after these latest actions, the tension between Israel and the Palestinians increased once again. In retaliation, Israel launched airstrikes of the Gaza Strip. According to the new reports, Israeli aircraft carried out at least 13 airstrikes on the Al-Maghazi refugee camp. Apart from this, the Al-Zaytun area of Gaza City was also attacked. Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas in the world, where about 2.1 million people live. Now the question is that what is the root cause of the differences between them and where does the world stand in this issue? So let's understand this too now. By the way, the differences between Israel and Palestine began with the end of the Ottoman Empire, when nationalism was spreading its foot all over Europe. Countries like Italy and Germany were uniting in the name of nationalism. Its effect was also seen among the Jews. This holy land of the Jews was known as Palestine in the 19th century. During this time, there was a lot of exploitation of the Jews scattered all over Europe. Then the Jews started to migrate to Palestine on a small scale. This was followed by the First World War. At the end of this came the Balfour Declaration in 1917. Many people believe that the Balfour Declaration was the main reason that gave rise to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now you will ask, how is that? Actually, in 1917, when the Ottomans were on the verge of the defeat during the First World War, British Foreign Minister Sir Arthur Balfour issued a declaration. It was indicated in this declaration that Britain would give the Jews their holy land of Palestine and resettle them there. On the other hand, Britain secretly signed the Sykes-Picot Agreement with France and Russia, through which it divided the entire Middle East into different parts and decided that after the end of the First World War, which country will go to whose share. In this, he kept Palestine in his share. Syria and Jordan were given to France, whereas some parts of Turkey went to Russia. On the other hand, Britain openly declared that it would give Palestine to the Jews, while, on the other hand, it secretly kept this part for itself under the Sykes-Picot Agreement. After the end of the First World War, the Ottoman Empire had been defeated and the British rule had begun in Palestine. Due to the Balfour Declaration, a large number of Jews were migrating to Palestine. During this time, the number of Jews in Palestine started increasing rapidly, due to which the Jews began to expand widely in Palestine. After consolidating their dominance in Palestine, the Jews started driving out the Arab Palestinians. Due to this, the Arab Palestinians revolted in 1936. To suppress it, the British government took the help of the Jewish army. Due to this, the Jewish people turned against the British government and secretly started guerrilla attacks on them. After this came the Second World War. Under Hitler's rule, the Jews were massacred on a horrific scale throughout Europe. About 4.2 million Jews were killed by being put in the gas chambers. The Jews living in Europe realized that there was no place other than Palestine where the Jews could live safely. The United Nations organization came into existence after the Second World War. By this time, differences between the Jewish and Arab people had increased a lot. Britain wasn't able to solve this issue, so it sent the issue to the United Nations. Voting took place in the United Nations on this issue, and it was decided that where the number of Jews is more, they will be given Israel. At the same time, the place where Arabs are in majority, they will be given Palestine. The third was Jerusalem. Here, half the population was Jewish and half the population was Muslim. Regarding this, the UN said in the decision that international control will be applicable on this area. Immediately after this decision of the United Nations, the neighboring countries of the newly formed Israel, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Jordan attacked it. In this war, Israel defended itself and defeated these four countries. After this battle, Jordan got control of the entire West Bank of Palestine, whereas Egypt occupied the Gaza Strip. The little space that was left of Palestine was occupied by Israel. Due to this war, the existence of Palestine became almost negligible. Because of this war, about 7 lakh Arab Palestinians had to leave their country as refugees. Then in 1967, Egypt, Syria and Jordan together planned to attack Israel. Even before the attack, Israel attacked these three countries. In this war, Israel wrested the Golan Heights from Syria, the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, and the West Bank from Jordan. Later, Israel had to return the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt due to some international agreements. On the other hand, Israel had the whole of Palestine under its possession. Israel had complete control here. After this, the Palestinian people started raising their voice against the growing Israeli militarization and repressive policies in the West Bank. During this time, many organizations came into existence to free Palestine from Israeli occupation. Palestine Liberation Organization was one of them. This organization carried out light bombings at many places. Israeli embassies established abroad were attacked. During this, violence started increasing in the country. After that, for the first time, an agreement named Oslo Accord was signed in 1993 to establish peace between the two countries on a large scale. In this, it was decided that Palestine would accept Israel as a country. On the other hand, Israel considered the Palestine Liberation Organization as the representative of the Palestinian people. The agreement also decided that the Palestinian government would democratically control the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. This agreement was only for the 5-year term, and after that no specific agreement could be reached between them. Since then till today, no agreement has been reached between the two countries on any issue. However, Israel's relations with other Muslim countries have definitely started coming back on track through the US-mediated Abraham Accord. During this period, the Hamas political party emerged in Gaza. Presently, it is considered as a terrorist organization. In 2007, Hamas gained complete control in the Gaza Strip. The rise of Hamas brought a dualism in the politics of Palestine. There was only one party earlier, the Palestine Liberation Organization. Since the ideologies of these two parties of Palestine are completely different from each other, the difference between the two countries increased even more. Hamas is considered a party of radical ideology in the Gaza Strip. Intoxicated by fervent nationalism, Hamas launches rocket attacks on Israel from the Gaza Strip. Many citizens of Israel have lost their lives in these attacks. For that reason, Israel has completely locked Gaza. Israel says that countries like Iran supply arms through Egypt in Gaza. In the end, it becomes necessary to know what is India's stand on the issue. Although the countries of the world seem to be divided on the issue of Israel-Palestine, India maintains a balanced opinion on this issue. In this regard, India advocates the two-state solution. This means that the establishment of two different countries of both the groups. Perhaps the reason behind this is that India has good relations with both Palestine and Israel. Now it is the turn of this program's Sunday special episode where we talk about other important events of the last week. Last week, a heart-wrenching news came out from the neighboring country Pakistan. There was a suicide blast in a mosque of Peshawar city at around 1:30 p.m. by the local time, in which the death of more than 100 people has been confirmed so far. The responsibility of this Fedayeen attack has been taken by Tehreek-e-Taliban, that is the Pakistani Taliban. Last year also, a similar blast was carried out in Peshawar. These frequent bombings and bloody clashes between the Taliban and the Pakistani army on the Afghanistan border show how Tehreek-e-Taliban has become difficult not only for the Pakistan government but also for the army and the police. This mosque was targeted because 300 to 400 police personnel were deployed here at the time of the incident. The question has started to arise in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, whether NATO and the European Union have made a direct entry into it. Such a question started coming to the fore ever since the German government announced to send its Leopard 2nd battle tank for direct help to Ukraine. The German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, took this decision on the same day when America also announced to send 31 Mi Abrams tanks. Now, after the announcement made by these two big countries of NATO, there is a fear that this ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine will be prolonged because these tanks of Germany and America have already proved their mettle in terms of resistance. Recently, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, visited Sudan. This is the first visit after the coup in Sudan in 2021. During this, Abiy Ahmed held talks with Sudanese military leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan regarding bilateral relations. Actually, relations between the two countries of the Horn of Africa have been very tense in recent years. The reasons for the tension include border disputes and Sudanese refugees in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. According to a statement by Sudan's ruling Sovereign Council, Sudan and Ethiopia are also on the verge of agreement in the matter of GERD, Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. That's all in this episode. Now let's note down the question based on the story. The Israel-Palestine tension may have its root in history, but the solution lies in the present. Elaborate.